everyone. Welcome. It's Facebook Live with Sheila and Walt.
Hi guys, I'm here too.
We're going to talk about sort of healthy recipes served up on Livliga. This is a sunny, shiny, practically hot day.
It's over 70 degrees. The sun is out. We had spring came last Wednesday, and 6 days later, it's like I'm so ready to get in the garden. I can't tell you.
I know. I have to restrain him because it's not quite ready yet. But we're ready.
Yes.
We're ready, and it does make you feel like anything's possible.
Yeah, it's just
new beginnings. You know, the flowers are blooming. We have trees budding,
and we have snow coming this weekend.
Oh, yeah, we have snow coming this weekend. But oh well. So we're very excited to have you guys here. It's a big day in a couple of ways for us. Not only does it feel like spring, but we have Walter trying to stay in frame. So this is a big day. So we're also going to be celebrating Nutrition Month, which is one of the reasons why obviously our healthy recipes fit quite nicely with that. We're coming to the end of it. But we're still celebrating it because nutrition is the name of the game, right? For our healthy lifestyle, what we eat, how much we eat, and contributes to this healthy lifestyle that we're all striving for. And we also have to celebrate a launch of a new book that we have. It's an ebook, and Walter's trying to get us so that we're connected up to our Facebook Live. So here we are, working on that right here, right now. So maybe right there. I don't know.
I don't know. She's coming in.
Okay, thanks. But today is the launch of our cookbook that we did in collaboration with Shelby Kennard. And Shelby, you know, she's the diabetic foodie, number one. She is quite a cook and has been for many years. And we got to know her and pitched this idea to her to create this brand new e-cookbook that would be diabetes friendly, would be some of her recipes, and of course they'd be served up on Livliga, which is like the perfect match made in heaven, right? So we launched it today because today is also Diabetes Alert Day.
Yes, it is.
And Diabetes Alert Day is a day that really allows us to focus on health again, focus on the fact that we need to be mindful of our glucose levels and get checked to make sure that we are living life as healthfully as possible, and that we identify if in fact we are pre-diabetes or living with diabetes type 2 or type 1, and you can't really do that without testing. So it's an important day to acknowledge that and make sure we're all getting tested and remaining healthy and managing our health given what we're living with. So we're super psyched to be launching it, and if you're interested in getting this book, of course, all of our ebooks are free, yes, and I think that's pretty cool. Yep. And that's another thing to celebrate is the fact that we have these. A lot of them are educational in nature, how-tos, and then we have three. I think it's three. I'm going to test him, see if he can remember which ones. We have 3 recipe ebooks.
Yes.
All right, testing.
Oh, I don't know that I can do this right now, but that's okay.
Okay, one has to do with the holidays.
Right, and I know that
we did it with who?
With Vanessa Musi. I know
Vanessa Musi,
and
we
I know
did.
it's all
She's
about,
quite a pastry chef.
And it's holiday baking, and I know there are really pretty pictures of chocolate things and live spoons.
He's benefited from this. And then the second one we did with Mickey Massey, the bariatric foodie.
Exactly.
And it's a recipe book that's
for bariatric foodies.
Exactly, by golly.
And the third is what we're doing today.
Exactly. Those are diabetic foodies. See, look at that. Three e-cookbooks, and they're all free. And you can find them and download them from our website or from our Facebook pages because we mention them, and also our blog. You can find them built into our blogs. So we're very excited, and we're excited to add this wonderful new e-cookbook to our library, our growing library, and so honored that we have these very talented people who work with us to bring something to the folks who can really benefit from it and see how our product really works well with those recipes, because that's really it. It's understanding how these things fit together, how we can live a healthier life by using them in tandem, and accessing people's expertise who are living like we are. Shelby has lived with diabetes for 19 years, I think she shared with us. Right. And so she's very wise and obviously has a lot of personal experience.
And really intelligent in terms of the way she just...
And talented.
Yes.
Very cool. And so is Nikki Massey, the bariatric foodie.
Absolutely. Who
is a post-op herself, and I think it's like 15 years for her post-op. So to work with these experts, these folks who have personally experienced the things that others are living with and wanting to learn how to live healthier and have a happier, healthier life is just awesome. I can't tell you how honored we are. So today, we're going to have some fun thinking forward, thinking about the fact that with the beautiful weather outside, we're going to want to sit outside. We're going to have friends over, have some brunches.
Yes.
Are we ready for some brunches?
Brunches, al fresco picnics.
Oh, and Easter's coming up for some of us who celebrate Easter. And we're big celebrators of Easter and have been since our kiddos were little. We used to be the family that would have the Easter egg hunt. So we would invite all of our family over for Easter. We also thought it was kind of the most emotionally neutral of the holidays, which was good. Christmas has a lot of layers of expectations to it.
As does Thanksgiving.
And Thanksgiving too. So Easter was great, and it was all about the kids having fun. And so we would get up early in the morning, and even if it was raining, we would do it in our basement, but we would hide all these Easter eggs and really, we'd decorate Easter eggs. And then, of course, we'd have the candy goodies that certainly was the tradition then. And then we had this big, huge Easter egg that was like a paper mache Easter egg that we had gotten somewhere. I think at the dime store in Kansas City when we lived in Kansas City, maybe.
Love the dime store.
We would put money in that. That was like the big winner. So if a kid found that, and so as the kids got older, that was really the one that they wanted to find.
We did have a particular nephew who managed to always find it.
He was just really clever about that, right?
Good job.
So we have great affection for Easter, and eggs and Easter seem to go hand in hand. So we thought it would be fun to show you all about frittatas.
Right.
And all the different ways. They're so versatile. You know how we think of pizza as a very versatile thing, right? You can have just any topping in the world on that,
What I was thinking was whether it's pizza or spaghetti, whether it's omelets or frittatas, all these things are great methods to use great things you've got in the fridge or in your larder to be able to add.
It's really good.
When you think about either pizza or spaghetti, the basis is really a carb.
Yeah,
and so with frittata or omelet, it really is a protein as the basis.
Which is really good for all of us, right? Because protein is a great satiator. Those of us who need to be gluten-free or glucose mindful, it's a great vehicle for putting other yummy things together to taste. And one of my fun stories, and then we'll get started, but one of my fun stories was once upon a time, as those of you who've been watching these,
Sheila.
And yes, exactly, is that I was in the Peace Corps. And Walter actually came to visit me in the Peace Corps, which was pretty cool.
And where were you in the Peace Corps?
I was in Zaire, which is now the Democratic Republic of the Congo.
In Africa.
Which is known as Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness. So we smack dab in the middle of Africa is what it is.
Right.
And there were some Spanish nuns who lived across the way from me, and I'd get to go visit them once a week. I'd go have tea with them. And they were Spanish, and I was obviously American, English speaking, and we would speak French together, which was probably hysterical if anybody else had been listening to us.
But you guys could understand each other.
We could, very well.
The common French language, right?
But they, and they were very hardworking. They were nurses mainly, and so they had a clinic, and they would go off and visit people that they knew were very ill, and they taught me that frittatas, really done in the Spanish way, which theirs actually was based with kind of wonderful crunchy potato at the bottom, which is kind of a classic Spanish frittata. We have sort of updated that so it doesn't have that, but what they taught me is that that these frittatas are good hot out of the oven and for dinner, but they're also great as a snack or as a take-along. They're very portable.
Right, and that's why I was saying, or whether it's an alfresco picnic, because you can do this kind of a thing as you would take them in your
and
truck.
those frittatas, like with the pizzas and the pastas and the other things that we were talking about, you can vary them and have different things in them. So you can eat the, have different tastes of things, like your al fresco, or if you're needing to go to work, and it's a pretty easy thing because you cut them up ahead of time and then you can have them ready to go. So it's quite a convenience. And so every time I make a frittata, I think of the Spanish nuns, Pilar and Conchita, and oh my gosh, who were the other nuns there?
Pilar and Conchita.
They were just lovely women, and we're so happy that I'm so happy to have known them. And so today we're going to do two different ones. We're going to do one that is kind of one of the first recipes I ever really developed when we were developing Livliga, because it's just super, super, super easy. And it's kind of a goat cheese and herb frittata. And I just wanted to show you, I mean, this is basically what's in it. So
eggs plus that.
Eggs plus, we've got some tarragon we're going to chop up, some parsley. We've got the goat cheese, it's 4 ounces of that, which is basically a half cup. And then normally I would have fresh chives, but they just didn't have them, happily. They weren't happy making chives. Not pretty chives. So Lighthouse, I think I might have mentioned that to you guys before.
I love
they're kind of fresh dried.
They're freeze dried.
They are freeze dried, but I call them fresh dried because they really keep the essence of the flavor of the herb.
Right. They really smell like a fresh herb when you open the jar, and they look better, and they just...
that smells like chive.
Yeah, it really does.
So we are going to use that, but again, this is my whole idea, is that these are things that can be in your refrigerator and that can be easily accessible, and we can, make it work for what's available and what's on hand, and for a quick and easy dinner, as well as for something that we want to make ahead. Maybe you're a Sunday cook where you get things ready for the week for work. This is a great tool for that too, in terms of food. So the first one we're going to do is the herb and goat cheese frittata, and the other one, really kind of in honor of the fact that Walt and I just got back from Morocco.
Yes, we did.
We had a super cool trip to Morocco, seeing art, and we even took a cooking class and learned about tagine, and
just experiencing the culture there and the people.
It was so wonderful.
It was wonderful.
So we're going to do a Mediterranean style frittata as well, in honor of that. So we'll show you 2 different ways, and they're also kind of different in terms of how you cook them, because again, what I'm trying to make people feel comfortable with is, for a lot of kinds of foods that we prepare, there's really no right or wrong way, and there are different ways to do it. And so I thought by demonstrating these, we could kind of show you one. You put the eggs in and put them in the pan and get them set, and then you add kind of the toppings, which I was just showing the herbs and the cheese to it. The other one has a lot more vegetables, the Mediterranean version, and so we're going to cook those up first and then add the eggs and then top it with some additional Parmesan. So, and they all get finished, and so you cook it and set it on the stove, and you finish it by broiling it, just mainly so that it finishes it and makes it look pretty on the top.
Do I need to turn the boiler on yet or not?
Well, what do you think? Should we, you don't need a broiler on for very long. It's a little different than an oven that needs to really heat. So we can.
I'll wait a few minutes and turn the top on.
Okay, all right, that's good. So, so the first thing we're going to do is you can find these on blog.livligahome.com, and we'll put the link in the video messaging, so we'll do that for you. And then also we'll just kind of walk through the recipe now, and I always change things up a little bit. The herb and goat cheese is really the way it is, but the Mediterranean one is something I found, and so I put a little less oil in it, and I just simplify it a little bit. But the first one, we're going to start with 8 eggs, and we're going to put 2 tablespoons of water in it. And then this is sort of how we were brought up. It kind of expands the eggs and makes them a little fluffier. So that's what we're going to do. So we just put the 2 tablespoons in. Well, if you want to, We need a teaspoon of
The tarragon?
2 teaspoons of this and a teaspoon of the tarragon. So
okay. And have these been rinsed, or do I need?
Yeah, everything's ready to go,
okay.
but we are going to need to strip that because it's still on its stem. So with the tarragon, you take it off the main stem, and then we're going to chop it up a little bit, just into kind of nice slivers. And the same thing with the parsley. We're not going to overdo it because it's kind of nice to have it in the egg but we want it to be able to be sprinkled around. And we're putting everything in a bowl. So we're going to put the parsley, the tarragon, the chives
in that bowl.
In the bowl with the cheese, and we're going to kind of stir it up so that it's already nice and mixed up when we put it into the egg when it's cooking on the stove. So we've got the 8 eggs and the 2 tablespoons of water going. To that, we're going to add an 1/8 teaspoon of pepper. And I'm one of those that really loves fresh pepper. It makes all the difference in the world. So we found these wonderful grinders.
Finally, we had looked for years.
Seriously, and I think it was Rob Portinga who really helped us with that, because he challenged me. And then I just get a little white bowl, and I do it ahead of time and just make enough to put it in there. And I do have one that if I really am out of pepper or whatever, I have the ground stuff, so if there's any left over, I just put it into that jar and it's used up. So I never waste any pepper, just let you know. And then we're also going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And when you use goat cheese, so goat cheese and feta are often confused. Feta is a little more sort of pickled in a way because it's got a lot of salt in it. So
is it always in brine?
It is. It's a brine. Yes, it is. And actually it's better to buy it in the brine still and break it up. I find it's fresher, tastes better than if it's something that's already been crumbled for you, because they kind of put an outer coating on it to make it stay crumbled. So, I'm all about fresher.
Favorite feta?
Okay, so I was going to talk about, since he's brought it up now, I'll talk about it, but we're not doing feta in this particular recipe, so it may be confusing. The goat cheese is something that is really actually fairly bland in the sense that it has a very gentle flavor to it. So it's really nice for kind of a mild version of a frittata. That with some herbs is very simple. It can appeal to anybody. And when you warm it up with the egg, it's just delicious. So anyway, I put the pepper and the salt in, and I showed you in doing this I've used up all but 1 egg of 18 eggs to make these 2 frittatas. So you do use a lot of eggs. The wonderful thing is that frittatas, not only can they be low in calorie, not only they are one pot deal, they're easy to make, but this time of year when you're doing eggs, have you ever noticed at the grocery store at Easter time, eggs are really, really cheap. So it's a fantastic time to stock up and do brunches and do things with eggs, obviously coloring them and having Easter egg hunts, but in making frittatas, they're really one of the most economical kinds of meals you can make.
Do you want me to crumble it?
Yes, you're crumbling it up in there, and then we're just going to mix it. Did you put a teaspoon of this in there?
Chives, no.
So here we need a teaspoon of chives. So we have 2 teaspoons of the parsley. We have a teaspoon of fresh tarragon. It calls typically for 2 teaspoons of fresh chive, but since it's dried, it's a little more potent, so we're just going to do a teaspoon of that. And again, see, it's flexible. So we're going to, let's see, we're going to really start this by putting this into a hot pan, which I need to turn on to create hot. And we're going to add a couple of teaspoons of olive oil so that there is a coating on the bottom of the pan when we do the egg. So we're going to do 2 teaspoons. I'm just going to swirl it around. When I'm doing this, when I don't have company on board sharing this, I have one of these, which is, where we have olive oil and you can just really drizzle it. And so you can use a lot less olive oil than if you're measuring by teaspoon or whatever. This just makes it, instead of a spray, this you can put right in the bottom.
But it has a great spout with a little air hole that lets you get just a drizzle out of the top.
It makes it very easy. thank you for sharing the links, Cynthia. So we are, so it says preheat broiler, so I guess I will do that now.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna do, right.
To follow the recipe. So we're gonna do the broiler. We're doing it on high. I set the shelf so that it's, it's about 5.5 inches,
Down
6
from.
inches down from the broiler. So it's not at the top one, but it's pretty high up. We put the eggs in the water in the bowl and we've whisked.
So this is soft enough, it kind of all congealed together, and so we put it in.
Okay, so we're gonna have to spread it. Yeah, we are, but no, we're doing it in the pan.
Okay.
So then we're combining the goat cheese, parsley, tarragon in this bowl. We put the salt and pepper in with the eggs. 2 teaspoons of the oil is in the pan, and we're pouring the egg mixture and letting the egg mixture set slightly. So that's the next thing. We're kind of frothy here. And we're gonna turn it down to medium-high heat. I had it on high to kind of, we're going to hear, oh, we didn't hear sizzle.
But it is just, it's almost where you want it to be was.
Yeah. So we're doing this, and we're going to turn this down, because we don't want it. So we're putting that in the steam. And so then what we do is we let it set, and then we're going to kind of loosen the edges just so we can get some more set in it. And then we're going to sprinkle the cheese on top and try and do that evenly, which, as Walt said, is a little bit of a challenge. So we're going to probably use, one of the things that I love to do is I use my little teaspoons. Livliga has a flatware set, and they have little spoons, which really help with this kind of thing. So I love them. They're very handy.
Okay, I was going to use my hands to do it, but you've got it.
I think this is good because we can. I think it's easier, honestly.
Okay.
So we're gonna do. We're gonna let it set just a little bit, which it is, and we're gonna get
silicone.
I'm gonna get a spatula here, and I'm gonna kind of go around and loosen the edges, and I'm also gonna let some of the egg kind of go in there.
Dawn, her
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
done.
say hi, Dawn.
Hey, Dawn.
and she said, I love your spoons.
All right.
Oh, thank you so much. I can't wait till we launch our next spoons, Dawn. It's going to be great. Our quarter cup and our third cup. We're launching them in just a couple of months.
She may be talking about the
Just
right
the
set
Just Right
That's
set
what I'm
Viva
saying.
spoons. Oh, thank you for that too. Sorry, Dawn. I'm a little slow.
You're busy.
So
Multitasking.
I'm multitasking. So we're gonna.
So that looks beautiful. So it's starting to congeal at the bottom.
And so that's okay. It is. I probably need 2 spoons, don't I? Yeah. Do you want to do this?
Mm-hmm.
So we're just trying to do it evenly around. Do you want to put it? There we go. So we're gonna put that on. We're gonna kind of let the egg set, so it's not. There's no sort of, liquidy stuff sloshing around in there. We're gonna cover it. So once he does this, we're covering it for about 10 minutes. And that's where you need to make sure the temperature is such that it's cooking, but it's not too hot, so you're not burning the bottom.
So you're on the really big burner. You may.
Yeah. So I always do it. I do it on the big burner. We're just gonna turn it down just a little bit. Once you get to about medium, and we're gonna do it about 10 minutes where it's covered, so it's really cooking through. So it cooks on the stove top, really, that's what you're doing. So it's one of those things where you can't kind of go off, you really need to be here so you can get the other parts of your meal ready. And
It doesn't take long.
And it does, it's 10 minutes. It's hard to do a whole lot else in 10 minutes other than get the rest of the meal ready. So you're there getting it done. And then we're gonna put it in the broiler for about 5 minutes just to make it bubbly on the top and have a little brown crust to it. And it looks beautiful, and then it sets and you take it out, and then we cut it up into pieces. This one serves 4, and typically what I like doing with this particular recipe is to cut it actually in 8 wedges, so everybody gets 2, and you can kind of make it pretty the way you serve it, and I'll try and show that to you at the end. And then to make it a meal, I was going to talk to you guys about the fact that
smells to me like it's a little hotter than it was.
Okay, all right. Just let's turn it down. Oh, well, it's down. You already turned it down.
Nope,
to
I
me?
didn't touch it.
Oh, well, I already turned it down. I think we're okay, really. So we're going to put this top on it. Well, once you've got the egg in there, the cheese on the egg. So the other thing I recommend that we'll also share the link to, and you can find it already on the on our blog, and you can get to our blog from our website, which is livligahome.com, or you can go directly to the blog, which is blog.livligahome.com, and we call it the Live Vibrant blog. So what I love pairing, because again it's wonderful for brunches, is this is a Tuscan lemon muffin. It is to die for. It has ricotta cheese in it. It has fresh lemon juice, fresh lemon rind in it, a little bit of sugar, and the great thing is you use less sugar in the muffin, and then you sprinkle it with turbinado sugar. So I do a pinch, so it's a very little bit. You pinch it so it just looks pretty on the top. But again, when you take that bite, you have that sense of sweetness and tartness that, again, in terms of satisfaction, is just so yummy for our palate and our minds, because we feel so satisfied.
Do you want a timer for 10 minutes?
Yeah. So it's 5 after. Yeah. So Walter's going to put the timer on. That's what we do around here to be able to keep track of time, because when I get talking, you know how it is. So anyway, this is that Tuscan lemon muffin. And they're great to do ahead of time. So you can bake these ahead of time, and then you can even put them in the freezer and get them out in time. So if you're doing a brunch and you're gonna have a bunch of people, you can do this one, you can do other muffins, and then just have a variety of muffins available.
And this one's really pretty with the very pale
pretty.
top.
Can you smell? I mean, it
yum.
smells lemony, and it really does taste lemony, so it's a wonderful thing. And then the other thing that I like doing, and I'll open it up now, is another super easy thing. But you know how asparagus is in now, right? It's something that's available. It's so beautiful. To me, it's like spring grass. You know, asparagus makes you think of the grasses coming up. And so one of the things I love doing, and I was going to show you, we have some asparagus in the drawer. If you wouldn't mind getting it out,
sure.
Just to show them. Do you know the trick about snapping asparagus? It's super easy to do, but a lot of people go, oh no, you know, I might snap the whole thing and just have a tiny bit left. But what it does is, if you snap it with your fingers, it kind of breaks where the asparagus wants to break, where the woodiness is at the bottom, and so it breaks where the end of that woodiness is, and then you have the fresh part of the asparagus. And it's, you know, again, I snapped all of these, and that's a long piece of asparagus. But I just wanted to show you, see how it's sort of woody and kind of a pale color here. It's not green anymore. So you just take it between your two fingers and snap. It's really fun. And then you cook this. And
you don't eat the woody part.
And you don't eat the woody part, which means everybody enjoys their food so much more. And do you know the rule about asparagus? I know you know the rule about asparagus.
We have different rules.
Oh, we do? Well, I grew up with a mother.
Yes.
Oh, is someone answering the rule about asparagus, Sin?
No.
The rule is that you can eat it with your fingers. It was one of the things that I grew up with. That my mom said that, you know, you can eat it with your fingers. Hi guys. And so that's pretty awesome. And to make it ahead of time, what you do is you can actually steam it.
Yes.
And the other rule with that is too, you don't want to over steam asparagus. Any vegetable that's overcooked, as we know, it's just you know, mushy, and it takes the color away from it, and so people don't like it as much. So when I do asparagus, if it's a really thick stem, I do 6 minutes. If it's kind of the typical asparagus, I do only 5 minutes. And when I take it out, you know, in the steamer, I'll immediately put cubes of ice on it to cool it down so it doesn't cook anymore.
Stops the cooking, right.
And it's really yummy. And then I use a vinaigrette. So we have the Tuscan lemon muffin, and then we have the French vinaigrette on the asparagus. So we have this sort of multicultural, multi-nation meal with the frittata from Spain. How fun is that?
Yeah.
And it makes this perfect brunch.
Dawn
Yes.
said she shared the video.
Yes, Dawn, thank you so
Oh,
much.
thank you so much. So we're
And
we
Lauren's
have the
on. Hi,
asparagus
Lauren.
right here, and it's got the vinaigrette, and the vinaigrette is also available on the website.
And Lauren is somebody that Dawn knows.
Yes.
Yep,
She says,
we know.
hi guys.
Hi.
Love the asparagus.
Oh,
and
good.
so do my 3-year-old and my 22-month-old.
Oh,
They
right.
like asparagus. I am impressed.
We
That is
just
awesome.
put ours smoker.
Oh,
Ooh, and that's the other thing is you can roast asparagus, you can smoke the asparagus with
You
less
could
smoking,
grill.
and you can grill it.
Right.
And then
Oh,
when
man,
it's
love
cooled
that.
off, if you want to add the vinaigrette, and the vinaigrette is really simple. I have the recipe right here. I was going to tell you, and again, we'll provide the link. But I do one that is very light, but I love Dijon mustard.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it adds a yumminess. So this one has 2 tablespoons of freshly squeezed lemon juice, 2 tablespoons of water. So I do equal portions of that. 1 tablespoon of Dijon mustard. So yes, I love Dijon
And the other
mustard.
thing that Dijon does is it emulsifies the dressing. So it actually causes the vinegar and the oil to mix together and stay mixed.
Yeah, so it's really nice. And I do 1 teaspoon of olive oil. So again, proportionally, you can see there's a whole lot more of the lemon juice to the oil.
Yeah.
And then I do either a pinch of basil, and these can be dried or they can be fresh. If you're using it right then and there, use fresh is fun. Fresh doesn't hold up quite as well when you've refrigerated and you want to use it for long term, but it can.
Sure.
Just your choice. And so I love dried basil, but I actually used tarragon this time around because
fresh
it's
tarragon.
spring and
Yep.
we have fresh tarragon and it was delicious. And then just a pinch of salt. So that's what I do. And you can also add pepper. I just happen to be related to a daughter who doesn't like pepper, so I often will not add pepper to things, but often I sneak it in and she doesn't know. So either way it works.
Yeah, I still know.
She
I
claims she notices
I
every
still
time.
know. I just don't say anything.
Yes. So how are we doing on time? So we're
Just
still
4 minutes, and I think that's
Laura,
probably
And I
right.
think it's looking good, you guys. We'll show it
Yep.
to you. The other, so you know, there's the meal, and it really is very simple because the asparagus can be done this. I did this ahead of time. I did the muffins ahead of time. The asparagus, I wouldn't. You know, you've got to do it. You know, a day ahead. You could maybe
Max.
do 2 days
Yeah.
max, but it's going to be much better if you do it a day ahead.
Right. Fresher
Um,
is better.
Fresher is better on the asparagus. But honestly, with the muffins, fresh is great, but you can freeze them and then get them out when you are ready to start preparing for your brunch or your event.
So Pam says, "What are you making?" I came late.
Oh, so we're making 2 kinds of frittatas because we're thinking ahead to brunches and Easter, and eggs are just such a perfect thing to have for brunches and Easter. They're also they're very economical, and around Easter time they're really economical. They're very cheap, so it's a great way of providing for many. It's a flexible meal. Frittatas can feed many, and you can whip up 2 frittatas in no time at about the same amount of time that you're doing one.
And you could follow a recipe, or it's a really great way just to kind of use up all the special
Stuff
little
that's
goodies
extra in your kitchen.
that are in the fridge. Just
Yeah,
you know,
'cause you do
everything
one
goes
recipe
in.
and there might be some extra leftover things, whether it's cheeses or herbs or vegetables,
mushrooms,
Yeah.
meats, any of those.
Yeah,
things.
yeah. I tend to do mine meatless, my frittatas, but it doesn't mean you
But you
couldn't.
don't- yeah.
Because honestly, when you think about the Easter casseroles, those overnight casseroles, it's kind of a different version, and it does add bread, and none of these have any kind of gluten, any kind of bread, and really any kind of starch in them. It's got vegetables, herbs, cheeses, and those are kind of the primary ingredients are, the eggs, obviously. And eggs is between 8 and 9 eggs, typically for a 10-inch cast iron. I recommend cast iron skillets. They work really well because on the stovetop, as well as them being able to put them in the oven. Not all pots and pans are made alike that way.
But they also allow easy release, so that it comes out easily without
Yeah,
problem.
they look really
But then
pretty.
it goes into the oven.
Right.
This
So-
is looking pretty close.
Dawn
Yeah.
says I make them in the larger cupcake tins. And
Oh,
it's
you
a
do
great
individual
healthy,
servings.
breakfast in the morning instead of cereal. They just heat up in the morning for the kids.
That's brilliant,
Yes.
Don. And I have recipes for those too, for kids particularly, because they can make their own. You can get the basics together, and they can whip up the vegetables, or they can have ham in them, or vegetables or cheeses that they like. So that's another great way of doing it. You don't have to do this as a full meal. You can do it, as you're saying, for breakfast, or you can do it as a one thing and just cut it up into slices. So it's amazing how flexible it is,
Right.
and how usable it is. And because, as Don well knows, it's high in protein, it is so good for us because it keeps us full. It gives us the right kind of nutrients, and since it is Nutrition Month, we wanted to kind of
Right.
focus on that.
Dawn also said she thinks of them as being sort of a crustless quiche.
And you can also look at it as a crustless quiche. Absolutely.
And
Yep.
she's
So, it's kind of like how we think about these things. It's amazing. And I think, one of the things that is great too is that you can even freeze them. I bet, Don, do you guys freeze them?
Yes.
And then get them out as need be. So, I prefer them fresh, but you can totally do that. You can also do it with kind of lower cholesterol egg substitute. I have recipes that I use that for as well when I'm trying to be really mindful of my cholesterol. Although what's nice, as we have found, is that eggs aren't being considered as bad as they used to. It doesn't mean we should be eating them necessarily every day and in great quantities, but the point of fact is they were kind of given a really bad rap there for a while, and now some studies have shown that they're really not so bad for you after all.
You
she
are
even says that
Okay.
she even lets her kids put their own
Exactly.
ingredients in, and she goes, one kid even puts pepperoni, sausage, and mozzarella
fun.
cheese topped with tomato.
So
like
here
a
we
pizza.
are, and that's what it
Vanilla
looks
cake.
like until we put it in the oven. And I think Walter hopefully is going to help me, and it's about 5 minutes, so we're going to put in there. And so while we're watching that, we're going to start the second frittata,
right.
so that we show you. And this one is the Mediterranean version. And again, we talk about the Mediterranean diet and how great it is. Well, really, it's about whole fresh foods, right? So this one, I pre-cut a lot of this stuff so that you guys could see it. And we're going to use feta in this one, and we're going to talk about different kinds of feta really do make a big difference. And I am very fortunate that my sister married a Bulgarian and introduced me to Bulgarian feta. And if you ever have the opportunity of purchasing Bulgarian feta, you will be a convert for the rest of your life. It's creamy. It's not quite as salty as some of the other fetas.
It's really good.
It's really good, but we have Murray's in this part of the world, and Murray's has a really nice feta. And then I suggest you get it in the brine because it just keeps fresher. And then you can cut it up. You can, get the crumbles instead of having them already pre-done that way, where they end up putting other
You
stuff
talked
on
about
it.
you were going to saute these first?
Yes.
Okay.
So we need to put. We're going to put this time, because we have all the vegetables, we're using a tablespoon of
Full
oil.
tablespoon.
The recipe that I riffed off of, which is on my recipes, actually calls for a 1/4 cup of olive oil, and that I just don't cook that way anymore. So
Just turn that on.
so thanks. So we're gonna take this tablespoon and we're gonna put that in the pan, and we're gonna get it so that it's evenly distributed across the bottom of the pan. I think Walter is going to help me out with
And
that.
asks if you guys deliver.
You're cute. I wish I could. I wish you could just come on over for dinner. Wouldn't that be fun? We'd do all this together, and then you guys would come over and have dinner with us, because of course we create all this, and then we need. Oh, this is looking good, Walt. Did you pay attention to the amount of time?
I did, and I put it on.
Yeah, I'm not sure that we can not pay attention to it though.
5 minutes seemed like a lot. I agree.
So,
I think you
we have a
guys
hot
are-
oven, so I think we have to pay attention to the browning process. So, again, with frittatas, we have some basic ingredients, right? So we got the eggs, and one recipe used 8, the other used 9, and so, kind of depends on what you're putting in it, but that's basically it. Then herbs, 1 to 2 teaspoons of the various herbs that you're adding, and you can add more than one. I mean, in the first one, we had, we had parsley, we had tarragon, we had chives, and they all are just yummy together. Or you can just pick one particular herb. And this one, we're going to be using basil, which I've already done.
Don't you love that?
Yeah, it looks beautiful.
So can you
Check
guys
this
see?
out,
Look
you
at
guys.
that.
That's the herb and goat cheese
lightly golden brown.
And it's just, and it is just
I
lovely.
like to
And
put it over here for the moment.
you can, and we can then slice it up. I think we probably should get this one going.
Yep.
So eggs, herbs, and then vegetables. And typically 1/4 to 3 cups of vegetables, depending on how hearty you want this. So we're going to get, where you put the vegetables in.
Yep.
So we've got 1 whole zucchini, and we have 1 whole pepper. Red. It can be any color. We're doing orange because I had it in the refrigerator. So we're gonna have, and this is going to be very colorful, which to me is so fun for Easter, so fun for spring, because you've got all these bright colors, and it just kind of makes you happy looking at it. And again, this is our Mediterranean, so we're putting a lot of vegetables. So we've got a 1/2 cup of onion as well in there, so we'll put that in. And as you can see, for the purposes of today, I pre-cut a lot of this so that it would be ready. What I didn't do was the olives, and so olives are, again, they're yummy, and they kind of are a treat, but they can be pretty high in calories. So I'm just cutting up 8 of them and putting them in with the vegetables. And again, it creates a richness and a fullness of flavor, which is really nice. So we're going to do that. Thank you for the well-paired flavors, Lisa. I appreciate that. These are tasty meals, and by doing 2 frittatas for a brunch, again, depending on how many people can pick and choose what they want. They can get a piece of each, and generally these are very healthy and pretty low calorie. And again, these don't have any starch of any kind in them. Don't have any the bread in them. These are, as Don was saying, you could call it a crustless quiche. You could call it a potato-less frittata. So we're gonna stir that up if you don't mind. And so we're doing the vegetables, and then once the vegetables are done for this Mediterranean version of a frittata, we're going to add the other ingredients in, which is the feta and the basil, and then that's at the end, just before we put it into before it sets.
And then the eggs, and then you finish with the herbs and cheese.
And then what we're going to do is we're going to add. I'm going to add this when we add the egg. Rather than putting it in here, I always find that never evenly distributes. So we're going to sprinkle the feta. And the feta is, let me double check the amount. It is, what is the amount of feta here? It is,
what is the 1/3 cup?
It's a 1/2 cup.
Okay.
It's a 1/2 cup, so 4 ounces again. And then it's a 1/3 cup of Parmesan that we're going to sprinkle on it before we broil it.
Okay.
So that's the very last step, is the Parmesan. So right now we're whipping this up so it looks good. We're going to add some pepper to this one, so don't tell Cynthia. We're going to do a 1/2 teaspoon, but I don't add any salt, whereas I did to the previous one because it was just the goat cheese. But feta has a lot of salt in it, and so does Parmesan too.
Right? Yeah.
So we're going to add a 1/4 cup, good Lord, a 1/4 teaspoon of just a touch of pepper, and whip that up. And then Walt says those are ready. Tell me when the veggies are ready. You want them a little tender, and typically what does that take? 5 minutes, to get them tender. You want the onion a little translucent, so that it's cooked enough so that you really have cooked ingredients, because the egg doesn't take that long to cook. So that's why you kind of pre-cook the veggies, so that they're kind of at the same state as the egg when you get it all cooked together. So we've got this, and so we're gonna put this all together. And again, a frittata, basic ingredients: the eggs, 8 or 9, the herbs, 1 to 2 teaspoons. You've got the vegetables, which could be anywhere between 1/3 and 3 cups of it. Like this ends up being about 3 cups, so it's a very hearty, vegetable-full frittata, which is very satisfying and can feed a lot of people. This feeds 6 as opposed to the other one feeding 4, because we have so many ingredients. It's like gets thicker you know, so it's a bigger, heartier meal. And then, so the cheese, and that can be, you know, 1/2 cup to 3/4 cup, again, depending on what you're trying, you know, what you're doing with it. But just to be mindful of that, you can literally make that up as you go, right? Those 4 ingredients, you can create your own frittata and, you know, make it so that it is something yummy to eat, uses the ingredients you have on hand, and that you can feel safe experimenting with, because it's just got those 4 ingredients to put together. I think we're ready.
It's so close.
I think we're ready. So I would put it down to medium, if you don't mind.
And then don't you want me to stir it up so I get the egg
Yeah,
at the bottom?
absolutely. You're gonna stir it up. Well, not a whole lot.
But
You're
just
gonna
pull it up.
yeah. And then once we've done that, can you scrape that a little bit? Once we've done this, then we're going to sprinkle with the feta, which again is a 1/2 cup of feta. And then this is about a 1/3 cup of basil that I've done just like in strips. So that it'll be very flavorful, and again, it'll look very pretty with the, think about it, when we've got the zucchini in there, and we've got the orange pepper in there, and we've got the onion, and we've got this basil and the feta. It's going to make for a really pretty, colorful. So let's see here. Let's just kind of sprinkle it around. This one looks like I need to break that up. I don't want anybody to get too big a chunk. Got to share this good, delicious cheese around. And then we're going to put the basil. We probably want to integrate that a little bit just so it doesn't burn on the top. So we're pretty close. This is about, you know, 10 minutes-ish. Again, on stovetop, you cover it, and 10 minutes to let it set. So you're really cooking, that's how long it really takes to cook. And with the vegetables, that's additional 5 minutes. So this is 15 minutes. And then you brown it in the oven, however hot your oven is, you're broiling it. So it can be anywhere between 2 and 5 minutes. Ours wasn't even 5 minutes, was it?
2.5.
So it took 2.5 minutes for us to broil it. So it's a super easy thing to do. And and again, you can have all those ingredients ready to go, ready chopped, and can do it fresh and serve it up at the time of brunch. You can do both of them, or you can do them ahead of time and just put them in the oven and reheat them. They won't be quite as fluffy, but oh no, but you. And so they make for it. And again, to remind those that came later, we're going to serve it with asparagus with French vinaigrette that has been steamed about 5 minutes. So it's beautiful, and this can be served up on a platter, of course, on a buffet style if you're having a party, or, you know, can be right here on the counter for people to serve up. And then we've done a Tuscan lemon with fresh lemon rind muffin. And
really
this is actually what we're having for dinner, of course. We always eat what we serve, and I always want to be able to provide a meal for you guys so that you can see how you can put a meal together, how you can do things ahead of time that are easy to whip out of the freezer or out of your refrigerator, using up things you already have from maybe another recipe. So that, you know,
really,
eating
this
at
would
home.
take about 20 minutes to put this together.
It really is. And so
we
it can also be, I mean, we love frittatas just for dinner. So we don't wait for parties. We don't wait for brunches. You know, this is something that for us, as Dawn was saying with their kids, that's something that they actually fix and use for breakfast on the go. It's truly something that can be part of your repertoire today as an easy meal when you come home from work and you're saying, oh, what do I have? Just make sure you always have some eggs on hand. You have some cheese like Parmesan or the feta or goat cheese, and they last a long time in your refrigerator.
So Lauren's saying, so you can either do this like in a muffin tin or a cast iron.
Right.
We're using cast iron just because it's so easy to do it on the stove.
Right.
It does let it release. It goes directly from the stove into the oven in the broiler. That's why we like it, but the idea of doing it in a muffin tin where you then have individuals that come out, you can freeze them, you can serve them as individual
But
serves.
honestly, I mean, as Dawn was mentioning, I have another recipe which is really muffin tin eggs that I did when we worked with a store in Kansas City that was launching our Livliga line. And it's just fun when kids can create their own. So you just, you know, you can put muffin what am I trying to say? Liners in muffin tins, and just have different ingredients already chopped up, and kids can just pick and choose. One of the things that a nutritionist that worked with us, a pediatric nutritionist, said, you know, just challenge the kids to make a rainbow, so that they're not just picking the 3 cheeses that they like, or picking the ham and cheese that they like, but that you're challenging them to create a rainbow in their egg. And then they can just pick and choose, and you can have little spoons, you know, like a teaspoon, so that when they're putting it in, they're not over filling it so it doesn't cook well in the oven. But it's a fun way to do, you know, to do a muffin tin frittata.
And Dawn does that with this kind of a recipe.
Absolutely.
Where she has her kids then choose exactly what they put into a frittata in the muffin tin.
Right.
So,
and honestly, for a brunch, you could do all variety of those and just have them ready, stacked up. I actually feel that that's more work, to be honest. I think it's fantastic for breakfast to pre-do. So, but to me, putting it all together in one pot as a one-pot meal is really appealing to me. It's just simple, and then I cut it up into wedges, and then it's ready to go. And it's ready to go to eat right then and there, hot right out of the oven, and then it's something you can store and use for lunch. I mean, I'm one of those, I don't know, people have very strong feelings about leftovers. Have you noticed that?
I'm very pro leftovers.
Yes, fortunately, I married a man who is very pro, and we have to be nice to him because his birthday was yesterday.
Yeah, I won't tell you how old I am, but
happy birthday, Walt.
And she very sweetly did a little surprise party for me last night. It was so fun. I didn't expect it all.
With 2 other people, so it was very little.
But it was great.
It was a surprise.
And a great
so that
surprise.
was fun.
And lots of fun.
But fortunately, I married a man who loves leftovers, because to me, the thing about leftovers is it's another way of making life easy, right? Because you make your one recipe, and then you can use it multiple times. So thank you, Pam. That's so nice. So, you know, for me, anything I can make that then's going to have some leftovers for us to have then for lunch the next day or the day after is really awesome.
And what I love is it allows me really to be in control, because it's ready. It's already ready. I know exactly what it is. I know I can get it ready quickly. Of course, I want to know what I'm eating. Exactly, and it keeps me then from doing the bad fast food run, which is the other option of eating quickly.
Right.
So
how are we doing?
Lauren says, thank you for explaining, and I love the rainbow suggestion.
Yes.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Well, I thought that was neat. Too, because then it's making it a more creative, imaginative process, and we as adults need the same kind of reminders. And when we think about a frittata, it's the same thing. I mean, you could put tomatoes in. I mean, we have some tomatoes here that could have been, and of course that would have fit with the Mediterranean theme.
But you did a great job with your zucchini and your orange peppers and your white feta, and it was fabulous.
And I do cut the zucchini up into smaller bites, because I personally find it more delicious that way. It kind of is a little more sweet. Believe it or not, zucchini is really very sweet. It's just that the way we're so used to eating it, it's overcooked and it's in big, huge chunks.
Sheila has really discovered that for vegetables, if you cut them in smaller bites, you either get more flavor, it's more intense, and they tend to be sweet. It's really amazing. Whether it's root vegetables, whether it's carrots, I mean, all these things that you've really taught me on this. It's just amazing how good
so that's one of the things I do, because I think a lot of people go, zucchini, and so that's my trick. And then you don't overcook it. That's
Your daughter appreciates it.
And my daughter appreciates it, because she's not a huge zucchini fan, but in this kind of thing, she loves it because it's tasty.
Because it's chopped up.
Because it's chopped up. So
you turned this way down intentionally, right?
I did, because it felt like it needed it.
Okay.
And this one's kind of, isn't it interesting how much lighter this looks, the egg? That one looks so much more yellow.
But I think it's because this had lots of liquid from the zucchini, so it both seems much more voluminous because of all the vegetables.
It is a lot juicier looking.
The liquid from the zucchini and the pepper both.
Leftovers for lunch. Yay, Lauren. Thank you for that. So we're just really waiting for this to cook. I think we could probably cut this one out. Because we don't really have to. We just wanted to show you how it's very doable to do too. And we are cast iron people. I don't know if you guys have discovered the wonders of cast iron, how easy it is to clean, how easy it is to manage. and how easy it is to cook. We cook everything in our cast iron.
Cam actually said, looks like he's using a cast iron. And
Yes,
so I said,
yes.
he is. Good eye, Cam.
Yes, exactly. Good job, Cindy, for pointing that out.
So, do you think this is going to? Do you want to bring that over here?
Yes, yes, and we'll.
And
we are.
You want to go ahead and
Oh
put your
yes, but that
third
we have
cup.
to do once we're putting it in. I have the cup
Yep,
measurement.
yep.
And the thing about cheese is, I think it's important for us to be mindful of our cheese because again, it can be pretty high in calories.
It's easy
but again,
for me to overdo that.
I know. And of course, Parmesan is a great one to use because it has so much flavor. You don't have to use so much, and it's not quite as high in calories as some of the other cheeses because it's not one of those triple creams. This is going to be put on top of the Mediterranean. It's a third cup, and we're just going to sprinkle it so that when it browns, it's going to have this really pretty kind of crusty top to it that just makes for a really nice experience with our frittata. So I'm going to move this stuff out of the way so that we can cut up. And we're serving up on Livliga because we sort of think this looks like happy Easter eggs. So this Hulsa pattern,
Yes.
doesn't that look fun? And to have an egg color on that, won't that be fun? So, and of course the lemon muffin looks mighty fine on it.
Excellent. And we've
So,
got
let's
less
see,
than a
we
minute
need-
of those.
Yes, so we're gonna cut this up, and again, we said this one's for 4, and I typically do
8, you said.
I do, and so I'm cutting it in fourths to begin with, because I'm one of those simple counter people. And so, oops, I really wish I had a different knife. Let's see. Here.
Cam said that she doesn't have a cast iron, but it's on her wish list.
Oh, good. Good. We have to have wish lists, and you know there are sales that, especially spring sales, can be really great for cast iron. And there are so many, great companies now. You do have to make sure you get a really good cast iron. And a friend of mine told me she goes to, garage sales,
Yeah.
and that she actually, because people, they're really reasonably priced at garage sales. So that may be another way to actually.
And you can come up with really good old seasoned pans that way. That
Right, then the
are
original cast iron, and they last forever. I mean,
Right.
there's, and if it looks kind of gnarly, Walter can tell you how to bring it back to life, because it's actually pretty easy to do. So here we are. I'm going to serve up 2 pieces. I've cut it up into 8.
And see how
And this
easily
is
it
the
comes
herb
out.
and goat
I mean, again,
cheese.
that's just amazing. You need to show the picture of it coming out of the cast
Yeah,
iron. Where,
I mean, there's
you know,
nothing. Yeah, this doesn't stick or anything.
You
So,
might think.
are we gonna?
Yeah.
Let's
Can
get
I do
that.
it?
Yes, please. Turn
Okay,
it off.
I've done
and-
that. So
Okay,
I'm
good.
I'm putting a third cup of Parmesan on top, sprinkling it gently.
And then we're gonna serve this up with some asparagus. I'm gonna do like, let's see. I'm kind of messing up with the. I'm taking liberties with my plate today. And I'm gonna come over and show you this beautifulness. And this can be for friends and family and just for you. But look how pretty that looks. Doesn't that make a beautiful plate? And I can keep turning it around so you can see with the muffin and the asparagus and the frittata. And so we're gonna try it out here. Sid, you wanna come over and
And I'm going to
try it
show.
out? Are we
So this is the Mediterranean that's been set in the oven. And so initially cooked, and then we've got the Parmesan on top. And that's going to go flying under the broiler, and I'll set it for 10.
Not
for
10,
five.
for 5 at max.
But-
I would really do 3, honestly, because we
that's-
know that our oven is very hot. So I'm going to pick up, because if you were at the beginning, and if you weren't, I'm going to tell you now, in our family we grew up with the rule that you can actually pick asparagus up. It's like the only vegetable you can pick up with your fingers and eat.
It's the right way to do it.
Oh my
Cam
gosh.
says, wow, 2 quiche, or 2 frittatas in a serving.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because of what's in it. All that's in it is egg with 4 ounces of goat cheese, which is very low in calorie, and that's it, plus some herbs.
Now again,
She
so
says,
for
"I'm
this
in."
one, it was 2 pieces of the 8, so 1/4 of that. The other one, it's 1/6 of.
Right, so it's you cut it up in 6, then it's a
Right.
6.
Pam says, I'm in.
Is it good?
Try it out.
Okay, I will.
And having some asparagus and then that flavor, it's just yummy. It's just very happy making, very satisfying. And did you see the colors? I mean, it's just of spring, right? Doesn't this make you feel spring-like? Healthy and spring-like?
Pam says, is the recipe posted somewhere? It's
Yes.
on the blog, right?
Right. So if you go to blog.livligahome.com and you can look up frittata, in the search, it'll come up. I'll also post it in this particular video in the message chain, so you can find it that way
I posted
too. The blog location, and but the
later.
recipes too. I can. And the lemon, Tuscan lemon muffin is also on the blog, as is the Greek-style Mediterranean frittata.
And I just have to show
Simple
off
as that. Oh, just show it off.
the cast iron again, because look how, I mean, it just comes out clean as can be, and all that she had was 2 teaspoons or 1 tablespoon.
No,
For this
one
was
was 2
just
teaspoons.
2 teaspoons of olive oil.
That was it.
In the pan.
Because I wasn't
that's
having to
already
cook all
pre-seasoned.
those vegetables. It was really just to make sure that there was a kind of a nice bottom cover for the frittata. And when it first comes out, it is a little fluffier, so it's really fun to serve these fresh when they first come out of the
Right.
oven, because it's kind of like a souffle where it's fluffy looking. It's still delicious and it's still yummy and it still looks pretty. But that we did have this sit for a couple of minutes, so that's what it looks like once it's done. So
Which, if you're going to take it, I mean, if it's you're doing it on a picnic or it's one of the things that you take, that's how you will eat.
because it's great room temperature too.
Right.
So I mean, eggs are one of those things. I mean, anything that gets too hot. But obviously, if you're taking it from home on your picnic, you'll be fine, and you can put it in a thermos. But it's they are very portable, as my Spanish nuns taught me when I was in the Peace Corps. It was their way of because portable food was a little different there because
So
we didn't
you're-
have any refrigeration.
You're 3 minutes here. You may want to do another half minute.
So
It's
we
really
were just going to
close.
show you the prettiness of this, and we won't cut it up or anything, and then we can wrap up. Oh, look at that!
It's
Oh, I think
so
it's
close.
ready.
Is it okay?
Yeah, I think for the purposes of sharing, I think this one gets a little more brown because of the cheese. So the Parmesan cheese that you sprinkle on top just makes it a really pretty finish. Can you see?
But look at
how
that. Isn't that
pretty
wonderful?
That looks?
Oh, yum. Can I
So-
put it back in for a half minute? Or
Yeah,
you
you can if you want. I mean,
Okay.
I think it's pretty done, but we just are so glad you came again. It's fun to be at this point because we've literally been doing this for a year now. This was the
Right.
month that we started last year doing our Facebook Live, so we're very honored you guys have joined us today. It's kind of fun for us to imagine that we've done this for a year.
Yes, in 2 houses. We were not moving
yeah.
to this kitchen again.
This is
Although
it,
we
right
made it
here
on the
forever.
grill outside at some
Yeah,
point.
we're definitely going to try and figure out how to do this Facebook Live thing on the grill so we can show you some fun grilling in the summertime. Because Walter is a mean griller, I'm just saying.
I will say we had quail on the grill, marinated quail
Oh my God, it
that
was so
Sheila
good for
did
his
on
birthday
Saturday.
dinner.
It was so good.
It was
Oh,
seriously good. So, thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed learning and sharing also about frittatas, how wonderful they are, how easy they're to do, how you can put anything but the kitchen sink in them. And even then, and
see, I'm seeing this is now totally done and perfect. And just look at the steam rise.
All
Oh,
right,
it's wonderful.
Perfect. And so we have the marinated asparagus and we have the muffins, and now you're all ready for a brunch. You can find it on our vlog, and we'll be thinking of you here as we're eating and hoping that you're enjoying brunches and Easters and good healthy meals ahead.
Yes.
So look forward to you joining us again next month. I always
So the-
need to get that.
4th Monday should be April.
It's the April 23rd, and since we launched our diabetes-friendly e-cookbook today, we're going to feature a recipe from that e-cookbook next month that Shelby Kennard collaborated with us on, who's the diabetic foodie. And I think the recipe is going to focus on a really yummy pesto chicken salad
Oh, yum. That sounds
recipe.
good. Yeah.
So join us then, and we'll be going over making a meal out of that. So
Hey, Sarah. Cooling Texas.
all right, Sarah, hi. So happy trails to all of you. Happy spring, and the month ahead, and we'll see you again next month on April 23rd.
Perfect.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Take care.
Thanks for joining us.